if you smell what The Rock is cooking.
Acknowledge me.
You don't know what hard times are, Daddy.
We are bad to the bone. Get it? Bad to the bone.
Tell me when I'm telling lies.
I'll fight anybody. Who do you want? Just let me fight him.
Let me tell you something, Jim Ross.
Mega power, yeah.
We got it for you.
We are the best of the best.
Woo! Wheeling dealing. Smart marks.
And that's the bottom line, cause Stone Cold said so.
What's up? Que onda? Welcome to Talk 'em in the Building, a wrestling podcast where we focus on the pro wrestling promo. I'm Adalid, your pro wrestling aficionado, here joined by my co-hosts Greg and Adrian. What's going on, fellas?
Feeling good as always, man. It's the holidays. Happy holidays, everyone. Ready for Christmas. Let's get it.
Greg, how are you feeling?
Doing good, man. Doing good. You know how I roll. I got the prime ready to roll tonight. The best one, cherry freeze. It tastes just like one of those cherry ices at the theater, and that's what we're watching. These promos ain't nothing but theater, so that's why I got to have this.
Awesome. And you know what? That's exactly it. We're having a good time. Forget about the backstage fighting, the online chatter. Here, we're here to talk about the talkers. We're gonna hype the hype men and want to pontificate on the promo. And joined by my co-hosts here, my compadres, my friends over here. So for those return listeners, thank you for joining us again. And for the new listeners, again, welcome. Come along. We're starting on the second year of the podcast. And, to the contributors and to anyone that's, being an active part of the podcast, thank you. Thank you for staying with us, for being part of the conversation and this thing that we love, pro wrestling and this art of the promo. So tonight we're gonna have a bit of a focus on, we think of pro wrestling and we think of, this big, strong, pro wrestler who has everything right to say and, is the champion and is always on top. But in order to have that, you have to have the underdog. You have to have that come up story, that person that you're cheering for against all odds. And that's going to be our focus tonight, looking at the promo through the lens of the underdog. And I'm going to come at you guys like this with this first question. Do you think that fans ever stop seeing a wrestler as an underdog even after they achieve success? Or do you think they just get stuck with that label? And Greg, I'm going to come to you first tonight with that question.
Man, that's a great question. It depends on the level of underdog. I think once you get stuck in that role, there has to be some concerted effort, or sometimes you have to leave and come back or go, quote unquote, as they say, learn a new hold. That was the advantage of the territories back in the day. But you think about, there's been underdogs who left WWE, went to WCW and became a big star, or vice versa. I mean, let's call it what it is. You had Diamond Stud, you had, Oz, and then Vinny Vegas, and then they went to WWE and became bigger stars. So they were underdogs, in my opinion, and then went there. So yes, it can happen, but doing it in the same promotion, or even doing it today in the same promotion, oh man, that's hard.
I definitely agree, man. Definitely agree. When it comes to underdogs, it's certain qualities that we all gravitate to. I would like to say none of us are perfect, even though us wrestling fans will tell you otherwise every day on Twitter. But it's certain qualities of some of those characters that we've propped up. We've essentially championed a lot of wrestlers, and it's a lot that come to mind when it comes to underdogs. And I'm really interested to see what promos you have, but it's really difficult. Like, I agree with Greg. It's really difficult for someone to go from being underdog. We champion them for being an underdog, and then all of a sudden we don't look at them as such. Mm-hmm. Like, it takes a drastic change somehow. I don't know of any examples where I can't just say the person that I fell in love with being the underdog wasn't still an underdog when they were on as top, at the top or whatnot, whatever you want to say.
Right. And it's a really cool story because it's almost like they don't lose it and they don't lose your interest because you're constantly going to be rooting for them. You're still going to remember them as that person that came up. And I mean, to echo that, going back to Greg's point about the territories, I mean, now it's like the independents, and a lot has changed in the last 5 years. The landscape of pro wrestling has changed a lot, more than 5 years at this point. But there is some truth to that, in the sense that I can think of wrestlers that I saw come up and were underdogs and now are, multimillionaires probably. And I'm still going to see them that way. I'm still going to see them as the ones that were working, the VFW halls, and, working for probably a, hot dog in the handshake, as the expression goes. And you think of, on a grander stage, who those people might be. So if you're watching or listening here, on the podcast, you drop us a comment, let us know who are your kind of evergreen underdogs. Who are those people that you're going to root on, but still see as an underdog, no matter if they become, the champion at WrestleMania or the pinnacle of pro wrestling. Let us know your thoughts, and we'd love to hear about it and talk about it later. So I'm going to start off the night with an interesting underdog, and one that you're familiar with, because going back to that label, I don't think he ever escaped the underdog label, because it just stuck. We're going to start off with one Rockstar Spud, or Drake Maverick, as he wouldn't be known later in WWE.
To offer you a lifetime contract as the chief of staff. All you have to do, don't cash in option C. Allow me, the #1 contender, to do my destiny and defeat Kurt Angle for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship.
Ethan, this isn't about me. This is always about you. Everything's about you. You're in a title 1%er. You had everything handed to you on a silver spoon. You didn't have to work for nothing. I had to work 14 years to get here, Ethan. 14 years of fighting. 14 years of being told you can't do it. 14 years of my life gone. And all you used to do, you used to just laugh at people like me. All your phony campaigns, all your legends that you beat, all your preaching that you want to be the world heavyweight champion. You are nothing but a self-entitled prick. So I tell you what, Ethan, you can take your job, you can take your big nose, you can take that old tart on D, and you can stick it straight up your ass. Because this might be 1 in a million shot. But I'm Rockstar Spud, and I'm cashing in the X Division Championship. And I'm going to face you, Kurt Angle, for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship.
Adrian, thoughts on Rockstar Spud during this era of Impact Wrestling?
Well, I'm going to be completely honest. I really don't recall when I fell in love with Rockstar Spud. I was watching TNA or Impact Wrestling at that time, but I just don't know when it actually clicked. But what I can tell you, at least from his presentation, let's talk about on the promo or whatnot. It's a few things about the underdog role that he's portraying. Number one, he sounds really fed up. You can hear the cracking in his voice. He almost sounds like a kid yelling at some adult or something. Like he's completely fed up with whatever's going on.
We're willing to offer.
Oh, is that him? It's all good. And another thing, he's a very small human being. That's a very noticeable thing. So you see when he's cutting this promo, he's directly underneath EC3, making EC3 look like that much bigger of a human being, that much big. You have Tyrus right there. Like you have these dudes that are giants essentially to this guy, and he's looking up and he's fed up and he's fired up, and that just emboldens him to be that underdog character, that character that we want to pull for. And last point is nothing. I think it's a cheap pop, but the curse word pop is always, it damn near never fails. Like if you're cutting a promo and all you got to do is drop 4 letters and people are gonna react. So those are my 3 points.
Nice. Greg, what are your thoughts as you're looking at him? I totally forgot about Kurt Angle behind him. Was also focused on him.
It was I think that promo is interesting from the standpoint is he kept that underdog role because he knew his role.
Yep.
Because he even made the statement, how did he say it? This may sound crazy, but there's a chance or something like that. So he knows if I cash in this opportunity on Kurt, it's a long shot that I can win this.
Right.
But I'm not giving it to you. Like he's kind of standing up to the bully, but at the same time knowing I don't know that I got a chance over here, but damn it, I'm gonna try. And that's how you bring the people with you, right? It's like that I'm fighting from underneath. It's the cell, it's the kid, the guy who's getting beat up in the tag match, and the crowd gets behind him. It's like, man, he's not going to give up, and that's what he kind of has. He has that spirit of I'm not going to give up. I'm not giving this away. I'm going to go for this, and I think that's what he had an art of doing. He had an art of getting people behind him in real life, quote unquote, and in the ring. I mean, you think about when he did get fired later on.
That's right.
And the way he came across and the promos he cut on Twitter and stuff like that got him rehired. I mean, at the end of the day, it got him rehired, and people just got behind the dudes because he comes across so genuine. Even in that promo, he came across genuine. It wasn't just the screaming, yelling, and all of that. And even though he messed up a little bit, you were raised with so he tried to say silver platter, came out silver spoon, but which is great. I love that type of stuff because that's real. That's real life. That's how we talk. We don't always get everything perfect.
Right.
And his energy, even though he's very colorful character, in that promo he came across so genuine. It makes you want to root for him.
And that's exactly it, right? That's why I fell in love with him around the same time, and he's so likable. He's just like the everyman, right? Like, he really did fight to get there. You damn well know he doesn't know how long he has contractually, right? He might be in and out, but he keeps digging, and he's still on your screen, right? Years down the line. I mean, look, we're still talking about him, right? There's some impact, pun fully intended there. Well, I won't carry on too much with him. Love Rockstar Spud. Love the stuff he did later. WWE, even the comedy stuff was really, really
that
fun.
24/7 stuff he did.
Yeah, he made something out of nothing.
The wedding.
I mean, truly. That's right. The wedding as well.
The wedding, the 24/7 title at the wedding. I mean, that whole thing was hilarious.
But if you really think about it, I mean, think of the creative that was part of that era, right? They're all backstage at WWE now, right? And he had a hand in it, and I think he even worked backstage at one point, or maybe still does backstage though. So like, a mind that is appreciated and not just brought stuff to the table on screen, but who knows what other things he might have had a hand in behind the scenes, that we're obviously not aware of.
Right.
Well, we're going to call that the appetizer for tonight, because I do have a few more promos that I want to desperately get to and have you guys react to. We're going to move on a little bit, and you guys might push back on this, because the next few promos that I have are, a little bit, you're going to be thinking, is that really an underdog promo? But I'm going to convince you they are. So bear with me as we go through it. The next one is someone we've talked about in the past, in terms of not being a traditional underdog, I should say, but one person that we know that in real life had to fight back, even against the locker room, to earn respect. This is a promo from The Miz, and it's The Miz right at the WrestleMania. He's going to be facing Shane McMahon.
10 plus years, I've been laser focused on one road, and that is the road to WrestleMania. But at what cost? Throughout my career, I've taken advantage of people, taken shortcuts, taken undeserving opportunities. Besides my wife and daughter, I have sacrificed every single relationship I've had in this business. That's what this means to me. It was all to prove to one man. I just wanted him to be proud of me. My dad. And as cheesy as people may say that it is, when my dad stood in this ring, it was the first time that I have ever heard him say that I love you and that I am proud of you. And it was something memorable for me. It was one of the greatest things that's ever happened in my life. And Shane made that happen for me. And Shane told me that one of his dreams was, as a kid, to be tag team champions, and I did that for them. And when I had the idea of convincing Shane McMahon to be a tag team partner with me, people actually told me, watch yourself. They warned me, The Miz, warned me about Shane, saying that behind the scenes, he's a little different. I didn't believe him, but I was wrong. At Fastlane, Shane McMahon attacked me from behind in front of my 68-year-old father. My dad watched as Shane decimated me. What kind of human being would do that? And then he proceeded to put his hands on my father. And it is something that will be ingrained for the rest of my life, watching him put his hands on my dad's face, shoving him down as my dad was yelling for someone to help his only son. While I laid there helplessly. Shane, you are a conniving, vile, disgusting human being. You are rotten to the core, just like your father. You weren't born best in the world. You're a McMahon. You were born the worst. You think you're something special, Vince and Shane, because, you know, you're a billionaire and you can do whatever the hell you want? Well, you can't. You may own this company, but you don't own me. I wasn't born rich. I wasn't born of privilege. I was born in Cleveland, destined to flip burgers at my dad's Mr. Hero for the rest of my life. People told me that I was average, that I would never amount to anything. But I didn't make that a self-fulfilling prophecy, no. I went out on my own, followed my dreams, and proved everyone wrong. I found my way, and I became a champion. I became the most must-see WWE superstar of all time. You know, say what you want about me, whether you booed me or cheered me through the ears, but you can never deny my work ethic. I've always prided myself on working harder than everybody else because I believe hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard enough. I am a proven success story, and that is something to be proud of. My dad didn't just give me love. I had to earn it. The fans didn't give me respect. I had to earn it. It took 13 years, but I think right here, right now, I have earned it. You're damn right I do. And Shane, you deserve the one thing you single-handedly earned all by yourself. An ass whooping from me at WrestleMania.
All right, there we go. The Miz with hands, you know, people sitting on their butts. I don't know why, but Adrian, did The Miz earn your respect after this promo?
Definitely. I think I respected The Miz prior to, but definitely for the story that they were trying to tell, I could absolutely buy into The Miz being an underdog in this role. The McMahons at the time, they were top notch. That meant they ran things at WWE. So obviously, he's clearly an underdog like all the other employees, all the other fans or supporters of WWE at the time. Obviously, we're all oppressed under the reign of the McMahons. Like, that's the storyline that's been a storyline for damn near 30 years at this point. It doesn't fail, it doesn't fail. It's class struggle. It works. It works for the working class. It's always that. But I'm gonna definitely say when it comes to Miz, he's definitely an underdog because you got to look at the position that he's been in from the time where he was coming up. He wanted to be a wrestler. I think most of us were 90s babies. We remember him being on The Real World. We thought of him as the weird guy who wanted to be a pro wrestler, and we just thought that was strange but funny because he was an interesting character. But you had so many people looking at him like he was weird for wanting to be a pro wrestler. Then when he finally breaks into he gets into the biggest show in the world, he's ostracized. We hear stories of him being ostracized and casted to the point where he's kicked out of the locker room and all, for whatever reasons, kicked out of the locker room, not accepted by his peers. That's an underdog. If I can't name a better definition for an underdog. And on both ends, he caught it on both ends. So he's truly an underdog. He's truly the definition of perseverance because he's a Hall of Famer at this point. It's very hard to deny that The Miz is not a WWE Hall of Famer, like him or not.
Greg, thoughts?
So, The Miz in general, I think for me, and this role and that promo that you just gave or presented, for me, he had already won me over beyond the underdog. But he is a perfect example of somebody who could they or could they not get past that underdog status. He kind of came in. He had a you talk about a glass ceiling. He was below the glass ceiling. Like where he was at, he was low. Take away the backstage stuff. I mean, like, let's just use perception of fans coming out in his little shorts and the faux hawk and all that kind of stuff. Being a host, trying to find his way. And at the time, we didn't know a lot about him outside of Real World. You find out later on, he actually did independence before he came. And he did a lot of other stuff. He wasn't handed this thing, but he was the ultimate underdog for the longest. And I would even claim, you go into his WrestleMania main event, he wasn't the focus. It was The Rock and Cena. 100%. Yes, he was there. Yes. But even when he won that title, everybody's like, really? The Miz? And it was just kind of like, and then he lost. I was like, he's not getting that back. And then you think about it, underdog story. He goes from that main event of Mania, beating John Cena, being in there with The Rock, to the next year being just another guy in team. I think it was Teddy versus Laurinaitis. Yeah. And he even used a statement in the build up to that. I can't let this happen. I can't have the biggest fall in WrestleMania history like Bundy, who went from the cage to the midgets. So he talked about that, right? And he even used that in his lead up. I think he jumped the reverse way of jumping the shark. I think he jumped the shark when he had the Talking Smack promo.
Yes.
When he did that, that's when people said, whoa. But the reason people said, whoa, is because that was real. And it was true. And so I think fast forward to this promo, there was emotion that came out. There was realism. There was realism that he wanted that approval from his father.
Right.
And there's a parallel, because if you ever hear Shane talk, Shane wanted that same thing. So if you think about, he's kind of paralleling our storylines. And so I think this is a great promo, but I also feel like this is a struggle promo for him because he's not a great babyface.
No.
And he's trying to be sympathetic, but he has a hard time being that sympathetic character. The only way you can do it is to really latch into the Vince thing, because Shane's not, at that time, Shane was he was kind of new into the heel role, back into that heel role, right?
Yeah.
So people wanted to cheer Shane. So I felt like even back then, I kind of felt like this should be a Miz versus Vince more so than Miz versus Shane.
I mean, one look at Maurice and you're clearly not an underdog, my guy. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Shout out to
real.
Maurice.
Yeah,
For
doesn't
real.
get the love that she should for that.
For sure,
man.
for sure.
Man. But I
Um,
think this is a great promo. I mean, I think this is one of those feuds I think I forget about. And that match was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they put it all out there. They put it all on the line. That's the other thing I say about Miz. No matter what, that dude is so underrated. God,
Took the
he's
words
so
out of my
underrated.
mouth, man.
Yeah.
I had a
He makes
discussion.
segments just pop.
Man,
He can
he
give the
does.
worst thing, the most bland vanilla stuff.
He can do anything. He truly can do anything. I know one day we're going to do a whole show on him, but he can truly do anything. When they need him to go do press, he can go do press. When they need him to do comedy, he can do comedy. When they need him to get in the ring with Snoop Dogg at Mania, he can do that. If they need him to do an interview segment, he can do that and advance the storyline. If they need him to have Damian Sandow with him and embrace that, he can do that. When they need a transitional champion, how do we get this belt to Bobby? He can do that. And during this whole time frame, what kind of gets lost? He's the only two-time Grand Slam champion.
Wow. They clearly trust him, man. Like any of those interactions with Logan Paul, Bad Bunny, like any of your stars, they're always dealing with Miz.
Because they know if something's gonna go off, he's gonna be right there. And let's not forget, the next time Shane and him were in the vicinity again, or the same show, Shane broke his leg.
Yeah.
And Miz still had to host the dang show. With Snoop, a little assist from Snoop. But it shows to the versatility and to the staying power of him, because anyone else, the first time that they told him, hey, go change in the janitor's closet or wherever they had him changing, that's it. That's gut wrenching, and you're done. It's not because they're gonna kick you out, it's because you are literally gonna take yourself out.
Yeah. Right.
And to see this dude, I mean, go back to what Adrian, y'all kind of implied is like, I would not have believed you in 2011 or, after in those years when he was just an annoying afterthought, in that Rock Cena feud in a way. I could not think that, a decade later we saying this is a secure Hall of Famer, but it's well deserved, right? It's through no one act. The Talking Smack, go back a couple episodes, check out the archive. We did cover that one, but that is almost like a culmination of like, okay, here's Mike. This isn't the Miz, this is Mike. And there's a very clear distinction in that promo too.
And think about that Rock Cena thing. So you talk about all the trust. They talk about the Bad Bunny, the Logan Paul, all kinds of celebrities he's done with, right? He teamed with Logan first. Then he gave Logan his first match. But yes, Rock came back and wrestled Cena, but prior to that, Rock came back in a match, teamed with Cena.
Yeah, against
who?
Awesome Truth.
Awesome Truth, yeah.
Because who did they trust?
Square Gardens, New York, I think, right?
Yeah, it was like Survivor Series or something. But they but who do they trust? Miz.
Yeah, here's your warm-up match. Go warm up the Rock before he does his big comeback. Right?
Exactly. It's just crazy, man. It's wild. But yeah, I think that's a good one. I think that's a good answer to what your question was earlier. Do you see when they come in as an underdog? Can you see them ever break through? And I think he's an exception to that rule.
That's a good point. Yeah. Very good point. Very good point.
Yeah, I could see him being world champion next year, and I wouldn't bat an eye. I wouldn't be upset.
He's that person that legitimately could be opening match.
Yeah,
he could be intercontinental. He could be tag. He could be in a bloody feud. He could be in a comedy feud. And then he could flip to world champion and nobody. Everybody like, okay.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think that many people would just flip out unless they wanted them to flip out. You know what I mean? Like, unless it was designed that way. He has credibility on every level.
He's a promoter's dream. He's interchangeable, right? He's like
and I do think, even though it's hard to think about that, I think he'll forever be essentially an underdog because fans don't accept him.
Yeah.
Like, we just finished talking about Miz for like 10 minutes. All the accomplishments, all the things he's done. We've laid it out. He is absolutely trusted within WWE. He's essentially a made man.
Mm.
But fans, if you talk to most of us, what do we think of the Miz? We think he's mid. We think he's just there because he was on the Real World. Like, this is the kind of stuff. These are the constant talking points that are non-valid to all three of us when it comes to the Miz. His perception amongst wrestling fans is one where a majority of us don't respect him.
And we're talking about the talkers, right? Who used that disrespect in their favor? It was Punk in an MJF promo, who literally got the biggest pop by comparing him to the Miz. Right? That wasn't that long ago. That was definitely past all these accomplishments we said, because, like you said, people still have this vision of who he is.
But
and it's weird.
Here's where I'll push back a little bit on that. I think the last couple of years he's gotten more respect. I think what's going to happen with him, he's going to go away. He's going to come back, and at some point he's just going to become Superface. He's going to be Cena. And what I mean, people got so tired of Cena. You had a whole IWC who didn't like Cena.
True.
You had this little group that did, but you had that whole group that didn't. But man, there was this light switch that would happen. There's something that happened. He went away, and he came back. It's been nothing but love. Against Roman, against Solo, against Theory. I mean, you count it. It's every time he comes back, there's not the let's go Cena sucks. It's all everybody just loses their crap. And thank God he's back. Oh my gosh, we didn't respect him for so long, but now we do. And I think that same type, maybe not the same level because Cena's a different level, right? But that same type of respect is going to come back to the Miz, and I think he will be appreciated.
Man, you got way more faith in wrestling fans than I do, man.
And now here's the thing, though.
You got
think
way
about it
more
from this
faith.
perspective. This is not, and I'm not throwing shade. I'm talking about WWE fans.
Right.
I'm not talking about the AEW fans. In today's world, we have a lot more WWE fans watching these products, coming to these shows, than the IWC traditional fan that's coming in there. That hardcore who's like, I just hate Miz and I hate everything that's WWE. You don't have that as much. So I think that pop is going to be different because of that, because of the entertainment aspect.
I feel
and
that.
Something to consider to support your point, because I can see that. I'm not as hopeful, but I can see it. Is something we didn't think about for Cena is these layoffs also mean that the people that saw them like we might have seen when I was a kid, like a Macho Man or like a Warrior, right? I don't have context. That's who they're going to come back to wrestling in their teens, right? As you typically tend to, and they're going to have that fondness, right? There's going to be nostalgic to them, and the Miz to some kid who's going to be a 20-year-old, 15-year-old. He is nostalgia, and you're right. He will give that guy the biggest pop ever.
I feel that.
With time will tell. So, Miz, if you're watching, shout out, salute for a great career.
For sure, man.
And the ultimate underdog. I mean, we can make a whole storyline out of that. You know, all the feuds he had with Bryan later in his career.
And shout out to his dad.
So underrated, so good, such great reactions.
Wonderful meme. Wonderful meme.
Oh my goodness.
If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, and of course look us up on socials at Suplex Dinner Club. And be sure to check out our other projects. We talk college football on Dogs versus All Y'all. That's a weekly college football podcast where we don't just talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. We talk about all things college football. The Life and Times pod, which is short for the Life and Times of a Restaurant Lifer podcast, where I have some chill conversations with some cool and interesting people that I've met in my years in the hospitality industry. And of course, check out Talk 'em in the Building. That's a pro wrestling podcast where we solely focus on the promo. We talk about the talkers, we hype the hype man, and we pontificate on the promo. It's a fun project, and if you're a pro wrestling fan, I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. If you're into TV and movie reviews, check out Four Corners Cinema with Ari and Adrian, a podcast where two lifelong pro wrestling fans review film and other forms of media that just so happen to have some of our favorite pro wrestlers. The Suplex Dinner Club family is growing, and I would love for you to be a part of it.
So the next promo we're going to be talking about here, looking at is, again, I'm pushing the boundaries of what we consider an underdog. So this needs a little bit of a preface here. When I think of an underdog, I also think of someone that can go into hostile territory and over-deliver, right? And maybe someone we didn't consider would be an underdog under any other circumstance, but in this case, you're going to know right away what I'm talking about. This is Matt Cardona. Again, I said Matt Cardona. After he won the GCW World Championship against the preeminent one for GCW.
Here for fight.
Where's that
Get some.
PBR at?
We got to get some PBR in
Oh my
here
God,
for
where's
the
PBR in my
champ.
bag? Somebody give me PBR. It's in my bag, baby.
I am here with a beaten but not defeated Matt Cardona
Come on. Oh, man. What's up,
to
dude?
celebrate. Hey, what's up?
What's up, bro?
You're the GCW World Champion, man.
The champ is still here. I said it all along. Do not doubt. Always ready, Matt Cardona. I've been scratching and clawing my entire fucking life, my entire fucking career. Did you really think I was scared of Nick Gage? Of course I was afraid of the violence, but I wasn't afraid of the destruction that would happen in that ring. Look at my body. I am covered in blood. I'm scarred up, but it was all worth it because I am the GCW fucking world champion. I'm not done. Don't give me the thumbs up, camera mark. Okay? I'm still going. This isn't a one and done. This isn't a Lawrence Taylor at WrestleMania, first time, last time, only time. Oh no. I am the face of this fucking company. I am ready to take GCW to new heights. I am the face of GCW and a face with teeth. I am here. I am here in GCW for me. I'm here in GCW for the major marks. And most importantly, I am here in GCW for the GCW universe. I love you. I love you. Mwah!
All right, there we go. The ever entertaining and brutally violent Matt Cardona. Greg, I'm going to have you start tonight because I really want to hear what you have to think about this Matt Cardona face turn, heel turn. I don't know what to call it.
Well, I mean, we got to go back to his previous iteration, right? Zack Ryder, which was the underdog and underutilized. And we just talked about Rock and Cena and them. And if you go back to that same night, there was chance while Rock is talking of we want Ryder. That's next level. And if you've ever heard Cardona talk about it, he will tell you 100% it was his fault that didn't go further, and that he's the one that didn't approach Vince and approach creative and do certain things. So now let's fast forward to this. How far away can you get from that underdog character of Zack Ryder and Z, true Long Island story, and all of that, then do a death match in GCW? But here's the genius of that promo. He cuts a promo in GCW. There's just kind of GCW style, a little bit of F-bombs, a little bit of, little stuff, little shade thrown. But then what does he do? He already knows they're going to hate him. He already knows that they're looking at him as Zack Ryder, as that underdog, as somebody who's not been taken serious, that only held the U.S. title for one night and, things like that, or the Intercontinental title for one night after winning at WrestleMania. They don't take him serious. So he's like, okay, I'm going to embrace this. So I'm going to talk to you in your language, and then I'm going to call you the GCW universe.
Right.
And I'm like, bro, when he did that, it was awesome. But he also, because, they all love Nick Cage. They all that was their man. That was their Dusty. That was their everyday man. And what he's saying, I'm your champion with teeth.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, he's just throwing these little pieces of shade. And And to know today where he's at, this was that baby step of, let me try new things.
Mm-hmm.
Let me take this to a different level. But let me turn heel in a way that I embrace you, yet you're not going to embrace me. And I'm going to come in here and change you, as opposed to me changing for you. I'm actually going to change you to be what I was. I'm going to call you the GCW universe. I'm going to be the face that runs the place. I'm going to be the king of the death match, which just drove them crazy.
Marketing genius, by the way.
Oh my
Marketing
gosh.
genius. That dude
Bro.
capitalized so much on that.
So I mean, I love this promo. I love, even looking back at it, I loved it when it first happened.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite part is him saying GCW Universe.
Mm-hmm.
Truly, that was my favorite part. But even looking back, I'm like, man, this right here was just that baby step, that small piece that took him from Zack Ryder to Matt Cardona, in my opinion.
Definitely, man. Definitely.
It
The
was
threat of a spinner belt. That's all I remember.
Yes.
I remember how outraged people were with that threat of him making a spinner belt, a GCW spinner belt. That was hilarious.
It's like the mockery of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it really also called this kind of transition to, for me, GCW not just being, centered around violence. It was like, oh, okay, there's a little room for a little bit of fun here, right?
Definitely.
Not just the super
Mm-hmm.
matches and whatnot. Adrian, what were you thinking as you're kind of processing this moment?
No, it's the one thing that, not to repeat everything Greg said, great points, Greg. The one thing that I want to bring to this conversation is Matt Cardona has shown the way to move or navigate your post WWE career. There are so many examples of these guys. I mean, you guys have been fans forever, but mainly in the past decade or so, we always know it was a point of the year where it was the bus flip, where it's a number of people that are about to get cut.
Mm-hmm.
Number of people, we wish them the best of, in their best endeavor, future endeavors, that sort of thing. I say all that because there are so many examples of talent that was cut by WWE and didn't know how to navigate past the machine.
Yeah.
Biggest example for me, someone that I always talked about. I didn't think he was the most talented wrestler, but damn, he had a buzz and he could have done something, was Ryback.
Mm-hmm.
Ryback
Such
failed
a
in
missed opportunity.
He failed in so many different ways post WWE, where that could have been Ryback. Ryback could have destroyed the indies. He could have been the man, but he priced himself out. At least word on the street, he priced himself out, and he always thought he was better than anything and everything. And now we see Ryback on Twitch. You know what I'm saying? Very bitter about how the machine used him and how he wasn't set up. Like, dude, you didn't give yourself it. I mean, you didn't help yourself. You didn't help yourself at all. But Cardona was probably like the best example for me of a talent getting cut by WWE and navigating perfectly.
And
maybe Cody also. Maybe Cody,
say honorable mention,
but Cardona would definitely, for me, I just love the way he navigated post WWE. He made himself a bigger star to the point where he doesn't have to go back to WWE. I'm pretty sure he wants to, but it's one of those things where he doesn't have to.
He can bide his time. I don't think he loses anything waiting a year or 2 years.
Right.
After that, maybe, we start questioning you. But you also got to think and remember that he was setting himself up already. I mean, we talk about him, and again, we want to do it. We've talked about this, off mic, but we're going to do an episode just on Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona. The dude's like a modern genius to me. But you got to remember, he was already doing the major figure podcast before he got released. He and Myers had already done it. It was that weird period where they were just kind of taking content that wrestlers were creating on their own, and they were trying to take ownership as it was on the channel.
Right.
They were approached about it, and somehow they kind of said like, no, we're going to keep it independent for now. It's our own thing. We don't want to be part of the machine, so to speak. And then it would have been lost in the ether, right? Like Z Long Island Stories was. Once it became WWE, it wasn't his anymore. They take that and they capitalize on it because there's a market for vintage figures. They know there's a market for, shout out to Bill McKenna, shout out to Magic Olmos, who came back to WWE. These are toy designers who they are friends with, who they interact with. Do you know how hard it is to launch your own like toy line? How much like effort, how much fun, just the factories in China and getting samples and all these things and getting the right designers. And it all came from the podcast. The wrestling was that avenue to it. And now he has the merchandising down, like you said. I don't think anybody else goes into the indies and is thinking of 10 shirt designs. Usually you go to an indie show and somebody came off WWE, they have the worst like single t-shirt, black that's going to be peeling off later. This dude knew about what the wrestling audience wanted. He knew it long before he got released, and that we were very clearly evident about that. And he capitalized on it. He continues to capitalize on it. And, I'm excited about what he's going to be doing to finish this year even,
So one more thing about that promo. Would you guys not agree that was kind of his first major promo after WWE?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
What was missing in that promo?
Missing? Like something you didn't mention or what?
Yeah. I don't mean it's missing in a bad way necessarily either.
Well, he didn't mention. I mean, he kind of alluded to mentioning Nick Gage, but he didn't put him over. For me, he could have put him over more.
Here's what he did different. You heard not one negative word about WWE in that promo.
Oh, true.
You didn't hear one thing about WWE. You didn't hear one negative word about Zack Ryder, and you haven't.
Yeah.
Which is different than almost every single other talent that's gotten released. The first promo they cut. Oh, now I can do this. Now I can do this. I was being held back. You even go back to Christian Cage in TNA. He said the same crap. Kurt Angle said the same stuff. All these guys are always putting down the McDonald's when they go work at Burger King. As opposed to the fact that, you know what? Now I'm here. I appreciate what I just did. Now, I think that's a big change because he didn't try to create that us versus them. He created that I'm a new person.
Right.
And I'm moving forward. And he didn't even come out and say anything about it. He embraced the character. That he embraced it 100% in the GCW universe. The other thing he did, and we've talked about this with other companies that will not be mentioned right now. What else did he do? He brought in an entertainment aspect to the most hardcore company in the country.
Yeah.
And he opened the door for Jericho. He opened the door for Jarrett and others to step into a GCW ring and become entertainment in a company that was never going to embrace entertainment. And what did they end up doing? Embracing entertainment. And what happened? Their pay-per-views, their money, everything else has gone up. Why? Because they attracted an audience that was outside that little bubble.
Right.
They brought in the Zack Ryder fans. They brought in some Jeff Jarrett fans. They brought in some Jericho fans. They brought in these other people, and they created buzz. Who else recently showed up? JBL.
Yeah.
What?
Unheard
of all
right?
the people. And he shows up at a GCW show. Ricky Stark shows up at a GCW show. Those don't happen without Cardona.
Well, we'll be seeing him or have seen him against Effie in the main event of a very storied GCW show that has its own background.
Shout out to my guy Effie.
Yeah, man, that's another road to go down. Guys, it's been a real fun ride here. Kind of talking about. It's funny because we talk about these underdogs, and these are obviously very well established wrestlers in their own right and have forged kind of their own path. Usually we try, I think in the past we've always brought like when last promo was a little more lighthearted. I want to take a little bit of a left turn here, and it's going to be an Underdog promo. But to me, it was hard for me to include it with the rest just because I feel like it has its own space. But it's very near and dear to my heart. Y'all know I love Eddie Guerrero. I love the history. I love the fact that my father and I have that bond that he got to see, Guerrero's family come up in LA and Lucha Libre, and just having that very direct connection to when, I've just keep falling in love with wrestling over and over again. This promo is Eddie Guerrero's pre-match promo against Brock Lesnar for the World Championship. Often tried and ever imitated, but there's only one Eddie Guerrero talking about his passion and his addiction. The one and only, the greatest of all time, a GOAT, Eddie Guerrero, standing up to one Brock Lesnar, very young Brock Lesnar, too. Greg, I'm going to come to you first tonight. What, do you have memories of watching this promo, of experiencing kind of the aftermath of this promo? I mean, think back so fondly on it.
So I'll probably have a different reaction than y'all do. I felt like it went way too long. I felt like he lost the crowd a little bit. I felt like it was a little bit too pro wrestling. Throwing in the at No Way Out, that WWE title. I mean, just certain things about it were a little bit too scripty for me, mixed in with some of that realism. But I felt like when I watched it now, and I kind of remember back then, don't really remember a lot, but my reaction. But watching it now, I wish he had been more real. I know he addressed the addiction, right? We know what happened, but it was kind of yelly. I kind of wish they had reversed it. If I really am honest, I wish they had 8 Miled it and let him address his addictions, let him talk about all that stuff, and diffuse anything Brock could use against him. So when I watch it, it was kind of like it was paint by numbers, to be honest. As much as I love Eddie and I like the promo, I didn't feel, if that makes sense. It felt a little forced at certain times. I felt like he kind of took it to the edge, but didn't take it over the edge like I thought he could. And we've seen him do in other times. So I liked it. And I think it's a good Underdog promo, right? Because nobody thought he was beating Brock.
No.
Nobody.
No.
So from that perspective, but I felt like we could have gotten a little bit more, something else there. I don't know what was missing. There's a little flavor that it was missing for me. And I know so many others disagree because they point to this as a huge promo, and it was very good. It's probably in the time as well, right? I just think it just felt a little forced at times.
I can see that. I can see some of that.
What are your thoughts on kind of like Greg's thoughts and also just on the promo itself?
Well, I can definitely see where Greg's saying at times it got a little too pro wrestlery, that sort of thing. But I think I was more so into it in the sense of buying into it because that was his testimony, essentially. You know what I'm saying? Like he's one thing about underdogs, or if you really want the people to get behind you, transparency and accountability. Like I'm one person that'll say society is awful, society is trash at this point. We love tearing everyone down, we love being negative, but for all of that, we love building up an underdog. We love getting behind an underdog and champion that person. And when you can be transparent and you can show some accountability, I'm listening to what you're saying, especially when it comes to something as serious as addiction. Like he was Make no bones about it, the struggles that he was handling were in a lot of cases, people don't come out on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So for him to be able to overcome that, he's already a champion. Not to sound corny, but that's real talk. Like we've all seen people that were victims of addiction and they didn't come out on the other end. He did, at least for the time being. And we loved him for it. I just love the transparency. I love the fact that he said, this is do or die. These are the highest of stakes. If I win that championship, that's a symbol of the promises, the constant promises that I've made to my family after years and years of disappointing them in the addict I was. Like, and I don't know, maybe it hits me because I've had family members struggle with that kind of stuff, and those are the kind they're full of promises, right? Like I don't know if y'all dealt with that, but I've had family members who are struggling with drugs, and all you get are promises. Man, if you give me X amount of dollars, if you give me this, I can. I promise I'll be back. I promise this. I promise that. So taking all of that, at least personally, maybe it's a bit of a projection, but I'm taking it on when I'm listening to that promo because I see that, I've felt that, I've experienced that of someone with all of these promises after years and years of disappointing me because of addiction. And he's saying, this is do or die. The stakes are this high where if I win this, that's going to be the promises, a culmination of all these promises that I've put to my family. So I can understand what you're saying, Greg, absolutely on that. But maybe it hit me. It definitely got me. He definitely got me. He's an underdog in life when you're making that kind of struggle. You're an underdog.
He is. But here's I think where he did lose me.
Okay.
And I agree. And I'll tell you a short story here. In that time he was fired, he wrestled Buff Bagwell in South Atlanta at an independent show that I was at.
Oh wow.
And I got to meet him, and he was just kind of like as quiet as could be. Didn't say much to anybody, and all well and good, whatever. But in that promo, what I didn't like is I wanted that he's trying to go for a little sympathy, right? Let's call it what it is, which is fine. But then he goes, "Yeah, I was so high, y'all," and it kind of looked for a pop, and it got one. And it was like I didn't even remember, and it kind of got one. As opposed to had he delivered it, and this again for me, had he delivered it like, I got so messed up, I can't even remember what happened. I woke up and thank God I had people here who took me into rehab, and they took me into rehab. Now I'm getting sympathy as opposed to looking for the pop that I got high. So I think that's where it lost me a little bit.
I can see that.
I was looking for, I wanted to give him that sympathy and kind of get behind him because we know the real story.
Right.
So I'm trying to disconnect that part and know the part behind it because we're into it like that, right? So whether you're reading Observer or ProWrestling.net or PW Torch or whatever, you got all that stuff in behind the scenes. But when you're that general audience listening to that, and he goes for that little pop, and 18 to 24s probably like but it was kind of like you didn't suck me in, and I think that was the missed opportunity.
I think that's the nuance, right? That semantic that we're like, I wouldn't have seen the promo like that, right? I'm kind of like with Adrian. It pulls at my heartstrings. I mean, I empathize. I'm Mexican American, right? So I'm fully in with this guy. He doesn't really have to do much beyond that. But there's a point in time where he says, "I've disappointed my race," and for a lot of us, he was the guy, right? Him and Mysterio are like a 1A 1B, put in whatever order you want. And it was tough because he went off, and it was like, well, I guess that's it. That's a Guerrero legacy. Chawam is kicking, but Eddie had reached that point by that point, by that era. but I hear you because there is these. I could see that the general fan coming in might be kind of put off by that, right? Like, wait, I thought you were past your addiction. You should be idolizing it or praising it to an extent. But again, I think this really. I wonder how much he was told to set up, how much liberty. It seemed like they had pretty open liberty, and something that I'll say about this promo as well. I was really kind of blown away by Brock because I was like, this. I don't remember him being this, coherent with like a promo and remembering all these things. And
Yeah.
later on, I mean, now we got him like, oh, he's with Heyman all the time, so he can be the mouthpiece. So like, no, he did talk a lot more early on in his career. So that was a little jarring to see now in retrospect. But no, I appreciate y'all's thoughts, and and that's the beauty, right? That's the beauty of how we interpret promos and how they affect us and how we connect with them, because I connect with it for a very specific reason. Adrian remembers fondly, and then you had a very in-person interaction, right, with the actual wrestler when this effectively is set up to be, right? But we all have very different perspectives and can process it and appreciate it for what it is for us. And for you, to the listeners, to those watching the podcast, we want you to get your feedback. What are those promos that really stuck with you from the Underdog perspective? Was it an Eddie Guerrero? Was it a Mysterio promo? There were some really good ones out there from Mysterio as well. And any other pro wrestlers that kind of have your thoughts, send us, put them in the comments. And always, remember to be liking and subscribing. If you enjoyed the podcast, this is your first time, give us a follow here. Give us a listen, and promise you're not going to be disappointed. You're not going to get bored with this. We try not to repeat topics or episodes, and this is the dynamic. Real fluid, real easygoing, and positive, right? There's enough negativity out there in the pro wrestling world, enough, the detritus of podcasts that are pro wrestling. We keep it positive. We keep it evergreen here. So join us again next time. So for my podcast co-host here, Adrian, Greg, stay up, stay positive. See y'all next time on Talking in the Building podcast.
Merry Christmas, y'all.
Hey.
Had to squeeze that in.